Hey guys, John here from incomesh.com. Welcome to the channel. In today's episode, I have a very special interview with Tracy Childers, who's the co-founder of Wishlist Member, one of the founding membership plugins for WordPress. And in this interview, you're going to learn how a non-coder was able to build one of the most powerful membership site solutions on the marketplace, how to build software businesses that can last the test of time. The software has been around for over 12 years, which is an eternity in modern software world, as well as some exciting insider information about the future of Wishlist Member, as well as just the future of WordPress and how that entire ecosystem is developing. So enjoy this interview. If you have any questions for Tracy or myself or anybody in general, leave them down in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and like this video, and let me know if you enjoy me getting in with some of the founders of these plugins, these companies, and bringing you these interviews. I'd love to get your feedback. And without any further ado, let's dive into the interview. Hey everybody, John here from incomesh.com. Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special treat for you because I have Tracy Childers, one of the co-founders of Wishlist Member, here on the channel. He is an amazing guy, just a great guy all around, and is here to talk to you all about Wishlist Member, membership sites in general. If you're thinking about monetizing your knowledge, monetizing and creating a community on your website, Tracy Childers has some amazing nuggets of wisdom to drop for you, as well as a ton of history on building businesses with WordPress. So Tracy, just welcome to the channel.
Hey, thanks, John. I appreciate you having me, and especially the kind words that I'm an all-around great guy too. That's awesome. Thanks.
Well, it's true. It's true. We've chatted a lot in the last few weeks or so. Really impressed with what you're doing over there at Wishlist Member. But before we dive into all of that, could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and what eventually led you to creating a hugely popular WordPress plugin like Wishlist Member?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of have a unique background. I grew up in, I guess, what you would call the infopreneuring space. When I was like 11 years old, my dad was teaching seminars. And so my job was, I would do, back in the day, it was audio tape duplication. So, he would record the message one time, and we'd have a master tape, and then he would sell the audio cassette. So I had all this duplication equipment. And so for me at the time, I was like, okay, well, I hated running the machines, but then I kind of got into it. And what I didn't realize was it was kind of being embedded in my mind that one of the most powerful ways of doing business is to create something one time that you can duplicate over and over and over and over and over. So
That is such a powerful lesson.
Yeah, that's what it's been, just kind of a part of my life ever since I can remember.
That's awesome. How old were you when you got started on that side, helping your dad out? That's an awesome story.
Yeah, I think I was about 11 or 12. And, as time went on, maybe, more and more responsibility. And then I became the director of shipping. So I had like a little title and everything. And then what was kind of cool from an entrepreneur standpoint is I got to the point maybe when I was in high school, and it was almost like I was running my own business.
Awesome.
In a way, I wasn't getting paid hourly. I was getting paid by the box, right? So there was 100 cassettes in a box, and then he started paying me, well, I'll pay you just for the box. And then I realized, man, I can do this a lot faster if I get my friends to work with me. And back then, this is going to date myself, John, because I know we have a little bit of an age gap. back then, the minimum wage was $3.35 an hour.
Wow.
And so, I worked at like Disney and Wet n Wild and all those places in Orlando, and I was making like $3.50. And I told my friends, like, listen, I'll pay you $5 an hour. And so now I got two people, I'm paying $10, and then we were cranking out a box in an hour, and I was getting paid $40. I was like, this is sweet, man.
The seeds of entrepreneurship are deep in you. That impressionable age of early teenage years, and you're already building an empire, employing your friends. I love it. And that's one of the things that's great with what my wife and I do as well, is when we go and we create content, if we're blogging, if we're building that audience, oftentimes we can take the people who already know, like, and trust us, like your friends there, and they make the best employees, the best contractors, the best, collaborators on different projects. And that's awesome that you found that opportunity so early. And so what happened from there? Because you're in your early days, you're realizing building assets and duplicating and selling and replicating that process. What happened next?
Well, so I went to college and, I got my degree in marketing. And I remember when I was just about to graduate, I had this phone conversation was really, really impactful to me. And I was like, Dad, I'm like 3 months away from graduating college with a degree in marketing, and I don't know anything at all about marketing. Right? I mean, it was like you're taking these classes from these professors that have never really done any marketing themselves. And I was just like, it didn't even make any sense to me. And he said what was probably the most important lesson ever to me. And he's like, Tracy, he goes, you didn't go to college to learn about marketing. He's like, well, all you've really done is you've proved that you can do what you said you were going to do. And it's like you started out to do something and then you finished. And so that one lesson has kind of just been ingrained in me. Every time I do something, it's just so easy to be like, sometimes you do have to kill something and stop and move on. But I just have this thing in me that just makes me keep going and going and going and going and going,
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I'm the same way. I went to college for engineering, and so I'll go to my, some new acquaintance's house, and they'll ask me what I studied, and I said engineering, and they say, "Oh, can you come fix my air conditioner?" I'm like, no. Like what I learned from college in the same way was, perseverance and getting through it, but also just learning how to think and learning how to solve problems, and that's kind of what I've taken back from that as well. So the degree you do in college has no bearing on what you do after college. It simply opens up some doors if you go down that corporate path.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, everything that I know about marketing has completely come after college. And I mean, in fact, most of the marketing now, it's the whole social media, internet marketing. It was like this is a funny story, John. I remember when I graduated from college, again, this is going to date me. And I was like, man, this email thing, it's like, it's really, really cool. If only I knew anybody else that had an email address. Like, I was like, I wonder if that guy has an email address. It's just crazy to see how far things have evolved since then, right?
Yep, from the beginnings of email marketing to the now TikTok marketing and messenger bots and everything else. It's amazing. But to your point from earlier on, building an asset like a WordPress plugin, and luckily WordPress has proven the test of time, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon from the strength that it's got behind it. That seems like you made a good bet when you came around to Wishlist Member and working in the WordPress ecosystem. So how did you go from a director of marketing for your dad's business to a marketing professional to then becoming a plugin developer?
Well, no, I was director of shipping, not director of marketing. Big difference, John. I boxed up the packages and took them to the post office. So that's a really good question. And I think, after I graduated from college, I started working with my dad, and he and I started a business from scratch. And that was a really unique situation, because you go from just the idea phase into turning into, a big operation where you got lots of people working for you. And so that was a really good, positive learning experience for me. And then I was 26 years old, and I had 35 employees, and I was like, man, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this for much longer. I mean, it was just wearing me out, because there was always a crisis, and I always wanted to make a better system, but it was really complicated with what we were doing. And quite honestly, I didn't have the experience. I mean, I was talented, but I didn't have any experience, and I was just doing and by that time my dad was long gone. He wasn't working in the business at all. So we had an opportunity to sell it, and I got out. And then when I got out, I said, okay, well, what do I want to do? And I started doing some small business consulting, and I was developing databases and stuff like this for companies with a program called FileMaker Pro. But for me, it was all really about technology. I just was always really interested in technology, and I started building some products of my own with the database. I would do things for companies so that they could run their business, but then I started developing these little products, and I had so much fun. And then things started moving on, and kind of where things were getting more on the web, and all of that stuff really required coding. And I was like, okay, this is the next thing for me. I have to learn how to do coding. And I was trying, and I was struggling with it. And I was interested, but it was just like, something just like, boom, it just hit me. I was like, I saw a guy speaking at a conference for this programming. And I was like, you know what? I'm not ever going to be like him. Like, he just lived and breathed code. And I was like, I need to like hire people like that, you know? And so, long story short, I said, I'm stopping. I'm not going to try to learn coding anymore. And then I started getting into wanting to sell things online, but I always had this little interest in software. And so I found out about a website way back in the day. It was called Rent-A-Coder. And I
Love
was
it.
buying, like, I was hiring these guys from all over the world, a lot of people from Romania and Russia and all that back then. And they're really, really talented.
Yeah.
And you know, now Rent-A-Coder has been there. They all leveled up. I think it became folded into Upwork or whatever. But what I found was, if you can identify what people need and what they want, you can always get somebody to actually do the work for you. Most of those guys that are doing the coding, they have no idea what to work on. Like, please just tell me what to code. I can code it. And it just from then on, it started clicking for me, and I started creating products. And my first big product was video converter. And
Cool.
back in the day, it was shifted to Flash video. That was the big thing, Flash video. Now Flash is getting killed, but it was really good. It was a great product, and it was a strong seller. And it was right before everybody started doing this thing where they just uploaded their videos on this thing. It was like called YouTube or something like that. And it was like, yeah, but they can't do this. And then it turns out, yeah, YouTube was the right way to go.
But you don't know at that time. So,
Yeah.
I know we want to dive into the software, but now this is a whole other rabbit trail I want to just explore for a bit.
Okay.
So you mentioned the big challenge, and the big thing that you started to find was being able to know what people wanted and then diving in and creating software solutions for that. So give us just a brief overview, because there are a lot of people on my channel who are watching this are people who are looking for that big idea. They're looking for that opportunity, and maybe they're not a coder, maybe they are. But the big thing I think that you touched on was being able to identify that gap in the market or that need. How did you, can you give us
Yeah.
any insights to how you were able to find those ideas?
Man, that's a really good question. And it's interesting because it ties directly back into that story. And the same thing took place with Wishlist Member. And so back in the day, when I built this product, there was another product out there, and it was right around the time when video on the web was exploding. And like everybody was trying to figure it out. It was like, do you put it in a WMV file, or do you make it a QuickTime movie, or or an AVI? And it was really complicated. And the clear path was, at the time, Flash video, because 95% of all computers had Flash on them.
Hmm.
And so there was one product that everybody was using, and I think it was called Sorensen Squeeze. And everybody's like, man, yeah, I use Sorensen. It's a great product, but it's really complicated to use and figure it out. And then there was another underlying problem was like the video was crystal clear, but the actual players, they looked terrible. Right? You would look at it and it was like, oh, that's Sorensen squeeze. The video's clear. And so it was like those two problems, I kept hearing them over and over and over and over. And I was like, okay, there's got to be an easier way. So I came out with this product, and it was just like, boom. And so the same thing happened with Wishlist Member. I actually started that with a good friend of mine named Stu McLaren, and we had been good friends for a long time, and we were talking, and it was at the same time when WordPress was really taking off. WordPress had been around, and everybody was starting to use WordPress, not really for blogs, but for content management systems and just building out their regular website. And so at the same time, a lot of people were starting to talk about membership sites, and the very same thing existed, exactly same scenario. Most people, there were really two options back then. One was called MemberGate, and MemberGate was very expensive. It was like $4,000 to get started, and then I think it was a couple $100 a month, and it was their platform. It's like if they would actually build it out for you, and it's set on their server, so you're pretty much hostage. And then a member was a script, and it was like I think it was like $179, and it was very complicated to install because you had to do all these things. And it's like, okay, well, now I want to use WordPress. What do I do now? And then they had this hacky way of making it work with WordPress, but it wasn't native, right?
Right.
And so everywhere we would go, people were asking about this problem. And we were like, okay, we're going to do it. And at the time, I had been talking to Stu, and I was like, man, a lot of things have changed for me, because when I built that other product, I was hiring these people that were one-off. I would try to hire the same contractor over and over, but I was shifting, and then I made the shift where I developed a full-time team, and I had a couple good programs. One programmer specifically, who's our lead developer now, and he's a business partner of mine. And I was like, we can build anything. Like, and Stu was just like, man, he was an idea guy, and it's like, I don't know if you know Stu very well, but he gets excited. He's like, this has never happened. And he's like, we can build anything. And yeah, so we were, and then back at the time, this is interesting how things work out. I told you everybody's talking about membership sites. Well, because everybody was talking about recurring revenue. And the big thing in that space was a monthly theme company. And people were looking at this model, and it was like, man, there's this company out of South Africa called Woo Themes. And it's like, you pay them monthly and you get a new theme every month. And we're like, man, that sounds cool. And nobody is doing this for plugins. Everybody was paying for themes. Nobody was really paying for plugins. And so we were like, we need to start building plugins, and we'll have a recurring revenue thing, and we'll deliver a new plugin every month. And our first one that we built was Wishlist Member.
Wow.
And we didn't quite realize how big the demand was for it, so it was like we hit it, and then it just started taking off. We went we went almost a year before we spent a dime on advertising. It was just strictly affiliates and word of mouth. And, it just started taking off. And then along came all the other competitors, right?
Well, that's what happens when you tap into a new market. And so
Yeah.
just to touch on that point. So you were in the right circles, you were talking to people, you're hearing their frustrations. And whenever you find an emerging industry and emerging technology, like WordPress was an emerging one, online video streaming was an emerging one, just simply see what's out there, see what is working in that industry, and see where that commonality is, where the pain points tend to be. And there might be something in there for anybody listening to this to create a whole new niche. I mean, you look right now at what has happened to the WordPress repository. It started out with a few plugins here and there, and then something like a Wishlist Member comes out, and the sky is the limit from there.
Yeah, I want to touch base on one thing, John, because if your channel, if your subscribers are looking sometimes for that new thing, there's one thing that I didn't make really, really clear. And it was a lot of times people fail because they're looking for that one idea. Like they want to invent the light bulb, right? And it's like, man, do not do that. Look around at something that's already established and like check your the trends on like what people are looking for and find out, are there any competitors? Like in that situation with the membership, we did have competitors. We were just doing it a different way.
Right.
And so that's where, like, if you can find things is like, yes, solutions exist, then you've already proven that there's a big demand. And that's the key on that one.
Yeah, thank you for touching on that. That's huge. I mean, there's a saying that I hear Russell Brunson say, you always know who the pioneers are because they're the ones who have arrows in their backs. So
Yeah.
you might not want to be the first one into a new industry or to maybe create an industry. That's where you run a huge risk. But if you can refine what's already out there, if you can stand on the shoulders of giants, figure out what has already been done well and do it better, that's where I think that's exactly where Wishlist Member came into the marketplace. So yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So that's an awesome origin story. So now we're kind of here and Wishlist Members on the market. So give people an idea in the early days what Wishlist Member was all about and kind of how it's evolved to where it's at now at 2020. It's hard to believe we're already here in 2020. Like what's
Yeah.
been a little bit of that growth? And because what I want people to understand here is that this is not a tool that was built a few months ago. This is not something that is still figuring itself out. Like you've been here since I think it was before 2010, right? I think you launched
Yeah.
in
We
2000.
launched in 2008. Yeah.
So help us understand. That's 12 years of development. That is an eternity in the technology space. So you guys have stood the test of time. Tell us a little bit about what Wishlist Member actually is, because some people, they hear the word membership plugin and they might get a little itchy because they think it's complicated and scary. Like help people understand what really you guys do.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question. So there's a lot of stuff there. So kind of high level view, Wishlist Member is a plugin for WordPress that gives it all kinds of functionality that didn't exist in WordPress before. And that's kind of the beauty of WordPress with the themes. Makes a lot of stuff has changed with themes now, but themes used to be specifically how it looks and plugins were how it functions.
Right.
So if WordPress tried to put everything in the core of WordPress, nobody would use it because it would be way too complicated. You would install it. It's like, wait, I don't even know what Google Analytics code is. Like, why do I have this whole dashboard of stats and everything and all these other things? So the beauty of it is you say, okay, you get this plugin and it adds all this functionality. So WordPress in and of itself has a little feature that says, I want to password protect this page or this post. So now when somebody comes to it, it says, hey, you have to have the password to see this thing. And so it works really, really well. Here's the problem. It's just one password, right? And so if you're trying to deliver something in a password protected format and you're trying to get it out to 1,000 people and they all have the same password, there's no username, it becomes a problem. So they had a system for registering users. So now they have a username and then they have their own password. And we say, okay, well now what all can we do with that? Now we start creating membership levels. People on this level have access to this. People on this level have access to that. And you can imagine there are all kinds of different combinations. And then the real power of it is when people say, oh, I want to collect payments for that. So just to be real clear, you said clarify memberships. A lot of times people say, oh, a membership is a recurring payment. And that's not true. A recurring payment is a subscription model,
Right.
but a membership site means you have to log in before you see the content. It could be a free thing. I mean, it could be the Chamber of Commerce and you paid them with a check to access it, or you could be going to a church and they're like, well, we just have our member directory behind logged in, because we don't want everybody in the world to just scrape the, the phone numbers of all of our members, right? But if you do want to pay, we have all these integrations, so you can collect money with this system, and then that system talks to us. And so a lot of people think that we're more of like a builder. Oh, you're building. And no, Wishlist Member, anything that you can build in WordPress, now you can control who has access to it. So that's kind of the high level. There was more part to your question that I just totally went off the rails and forgot the second part, though.
No, it's awesome. And thank you for walking through that, because I think, my wife and I, we have this conversation a lot because, we sell online courses, we have other different digital products. And even we, when discussing, will automatically associate, a membership site means they're going to pay every month to get access to specific content. But in reality, anything that is members only, and that could be an online course, that could be an ebook, that could be really anything that you can sell online, even services or group coaching can all be part of a membership site, because you're simply protecting off certain areas. You've got door A, door B, and door C. Which door can you enter? Which one do you have the key into? And so thank you for breaking that down. That's a great way to explain that. And to your point, Wishlist Member is, I'm going to throw it out there, and I want you to kind of explain this statement here. I think Wishlist Member is a bit of a double-edged sword, because there's two different ways that people have gone in the building a business online route. There is the walled garden. There is kind of the closed ecosystem where, I won't use any names, but let's say you're a course selling platform. All you can do is upload your videos, maybe put some links in there, and maybe be able to ask the professor a question or something like that. And that's the limitations of that system. Wishlist Member is totally open, where you have this amazing flexibility of, do you want a forum? Do you want a group community? Do you want access to this? Do you want courses? You can do almost anything you want with it. The challenge with that is you can do anything you want with it. And how do you decide what to do and what not to do? So Tracy, as you're building out this hugely open platform, what have you kind of seen some people do good and maybe not so good when creating their own membership sites? What tips would you have for people as they're getting started on this?
Yeah, John, that's an excellent question. And I think part of what you were asking me before was the fact that we went way back, and we made so many mistakes when we were building it out. And so we didn't quite really understand the WordPress space. We did things that were big time no-nos. We obfuscated our code, which meant we were software developers. We didn't want people to steal the code, and then found out people don't like that, right? And we quit doing that right away. And then some people still think that we do that. And it's been like since 2010. So it's been 10 years since we did that, and people still think, oh, they're the guys that do this. And that's not the case, right? So the challenge that you just pointed out is that there are other platforms out there for creating learning LMS, right? A learning management system. So some of the more popular ones is Kajabi. I know you teach a lot about Kajabi, and I remember when these guys came around, and they've done an amazing job with their system, because it's an all-in-one marketing platform and everything. And then they recognized that their market was people that are, a lot of them are not selling physical products, they're selling digital products. So it's like, man, we've got to have a way of letting them deliver their digital products. And in my opinion, they've done a really good job with it. And I pay for memberships to people, and as soon as I log in, I'm like, oh, they're using Kajabi. I mean, you could just tell.
You can tell,
right?
Yeah.
And so, but one of the things that I talk to my friends that are using Kajabi are like, man, it's just, it just does exactly what I want, and it's not that complicated. And if they ever really want to do something different, they're like, yeah, it's too much work. I'll just stick with what it does. So there's a positive, and you got new platforms coming out all the time. Teachable is a very mature one. Thinkific. And if you've ever looked at Udemy is a marketplace for all these people, and you can go and you have access to multiple courses from multiple people. So those are platforms, and they're very, very specific. and they're really good until you're like, yeah, but I also want to be able to collect this information in the form of a survey, or I want to have a forum, and we're like, well, that's good, but we don't do that,
Right.
right? And so now if you look at where we're positioned in the marketplace, people will say, well, why don't you go and do that? It's like, well, that's not really where we're positioned in the marketplace. We're positioned for people that want to do anything and everything. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's a big challenge. But when we first built Wishlist Member, we thought we knew exactly what people were going to use it for. And that was, oh, people are going to create some courses, and they're going to create like videos, and they're going to protect them, and they're going to sell them recurring payments, and that's what we thought. That's what it was. And in fact, the very first version, we told our coder, we're like, hey, uh, you can only create one membership level. And like, that's kind of a problem. He goes, did we need it to create more? I'm like, yeah, well, we didn't think about it, but yeah. And so now it's like we had to do almost like a big rewrite of the
Hmm.
database structure, because immediately people were saying, well, why, I want to have like a bronze level and a gold level, to collect. And so you start to see things there, and the beauty, where I bring it back into WordPress, is we get people asking all the time, like, are you going to do this? Like, are you going to turn it into an LMS? Like, and we're like, well, I always thought that we probably would, because I think that that's what a lot of our customers want.
Right.
But then we have so many customers that they have no interest in that. So if I now spend all my time trying to create a good LMS that built in is like this whole market of people that are using it, like, we don't, we're using it for a church directory. Why? We don't want an LMS. So
Right.
what we've done, in the beauty of the WordPress ecosphere, is there are plugins out there, and like, man, we have the best LMS. There's LearnDash, Lifter, Tutor LMS, WP Courseware. I mean, there's a bunch of them, right?
Right.
And so we've gone the route of saying, let's get where we integrate with just about everybody. And so that way you can have the best of class. If you want a forum, boom, let's get this other forum, instead of us trying to build one. And we want to
Right.
be the best at memberships, right? And so that's kind of been our focus.
That's awesome. Yeah, because going back to whether it's Kajabi or Kartra or any of those all-in-one platforms, when you first get started, and if you're a beginner and you're trying to build out your online business, the allure of those all-in-one platforms is hard to resist, because
Mm-hmm.
it's affordable. The pricing is not outrageous, and you can get up and running in a short period of time. But then you start to grow, and you start to build the business, and you start to listen to what your customers are asking for. And even if they're happy, if they need something to be a different way, or if you wish a feature existed that didn't exist, good luck getting those all-in-one platforms to actually be customizable or change. Whereas the route that you've gone, which is super smart, is be the best in breed at something and let others be the best in breed at other things. I work with dozens of clients, and I help them do anything from launch e-commerce stores or sell courses or simply be a simple business website. And I'm constantly diagnosing, when I'm working with new clients, what's right for them. Do they need the ultra simplicity of an all-in-one, or do they have these really great ideas where something like a Wishlist Member would come in and be the absolute best solution for them? Because as entrepreneurs or idea people, as they get ideas, you don't want the technology always to limit them. But there's different camps, there's different folks. I think you guys made a wise decision by not trying to be all things to all people. I mean, good choice on that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to take a ton of credit for that, and just think that, I was brilliant in coming up with that, or we were, but that's not actually the case. As you pointed out, we've been around for a long time, over 11 years. And in the beginning, and I said, we started out as, we wanted to be a monthly plugin club. And then eventually we did start doing some of that. And so we started building all of these plugins. We had this membership site, and every month we would deliver a new plugin. And usually it was some sort of an add-on, and people loved it, man. But what happened was, over time, we started um, like just really scrambling to finish off what I would consider that I never felt good about. Is like, yes, we just delivered a mediocre plugin. And now, as soon as it went out the door, we had to switch gears and start working on our next mediocre plugin.
Yeah.
And I had all these thoughts. Eventually, we could just say, okay, we can't do this anymore. But then I also had all these visions, like, we want to build Wishlist shopping cart. Look at how popular WooCommerce is. We want to build Wishlist LMS. We want to build Wishlist this, Wishlist that. And all of a sudden you start to lose your focus on what
Yes.
the most important thing is. And so that's why occasionally you'll come out and you'll find an older review and are like, sadly, this is it used to be one of the best plugins, and now they just lost their innovation and they haven't really done much. And so that's why we just kind of completely switch gears and say, let's get all of our focus back. Let's rebuild our system from the ground up so that we think it's more of a framework and it's easier to use, but then it's also in an organized structure where we can add more power to it. And the power that we're adding is flexibility.
Yes.
Flexibility so that this will work with that. And you're not even hostage to us in terms of a payment system, right? And so some people are like, oh, well, you don't have this feature that this other one is. Like, well, because we went about it in a different way, we're allowing you to make your own decisions. And sometimes, like we just said, sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad, right? So
Yeah, so perfect, Tracy. So give us an idea. I know you listen to your customers. You a lot of your decisions have been driven based on customer feedback. So what would you say is like the number one mistake that some of the beginners who come into trying to build their business on their WordPress platform, using membership, using Wishlist Member, or even a different platform, what's one of the number one mistakes you see beginners make, and how would you help them out?
well, man, that's a good question. I'd say probably the number one mistake is trying to be all things to all people. Um, you know, I was just answering a comment from somebody the other day, and they're like, you have thousands of features that are, I don't really need all these settings, right? And we're like, well, all of those settings represent a, a portion of all the ones that were suggested to us. And so had we taken every last suggestion, it would have been crazy. And so even with what we currently have, when we were building it, what we were doing is we were stacking things on top of things on top of things on top of things. And this is really embarrassing, John, but I'll be open with you and I'll tell you, we had a tab that was called miscellaneous. Okay.
The junk
And
drawer.
yeah, miscellaneous, which is actually still in the software today, but there's only like 2 settings on it, because they truly are miscellaneous. But we started on this miscellaneous tab where there's a thing here that coincided with a feature that was right underneath it. Somehow, another setting went in between the two, and then these 2 things that were linked together were down here. Like, you would turn a setting off and the other part of it was down here, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is a huge problem. So I'd say the number one thing is taking too many requests and not being willing to say no. And then when you do take requests, you just throw them in, and you don't think about more of the long-term picture on, like, if I do this, what are the ramifications of the other system?
Right.
The back end, how it all works together.
That's awesome. And that extends, honestly, that's great global advice. It's more than just if you're running a membership site. If you're trying to start a blog and you decide to blog on everything, you might not be serving anybody with a blog on everything. And if you're trying to launch courses, find your industry, find your niche, find what you're special at, and dive into that, and be willing to say no to the people that are asking for you to be who you are not trying to be. And know that you're going to turn some people away in doing that, but ultimately you'll be able to serve more people better if you can identify what you do, what your core being is, and what force you are in the world, and double down on that. I think that's fantastic advice.
Yeah, and I actually have some more to say on that thing, because your question was like, what's the number one mistake people make? And my example was pretty much from a software development standpoint. But you're right, for sure. What I've seen more people, when I step back and say, okay, we're the software development company, but let's look at the users that are using our software. What's the number one mistake that I see them do?
Yeah.
And there's actually two things, or maybe three or more. The one that you just mentioned is the same thing, trying to be all things to all people and not really getting a niche. The other one that I see people do all the time, and it really just, it kind of stops you dead in your tracks, is like, I wanted to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and it's like, you're not ever going to be finished.
Right.
And we have this thing, you've probably shared it with your channel before. It's called MVP, and it's like, it's not the most valuable player. It's what is the minimum viable product.
Right.
So if you're going out and this is your first thing, don't try to build something like it's gotta have like a note section. I gotta have a forum. It's like, just get something out there and then start building on top of it. And then the other thing that I see that it's a huge problem, and what you said really triggered my thoughts on it. And this is so huge, is people are always looking at somebody else and trying to copy their success. And it's like, this guy's, the way he talks on screen is like this, so he's doing well, I have to do mine just like him. And and it's like, if you're not genuine and authentic and acting like you normally act, most of the time people are going to see through it, and they'll be like, I don't really like that guy, because something's off. It just like he's fake.
He's not real.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Like, I could, for example, put a Lamborghini behind me right here, but that's just not authentic. I ride a bike most of the time because I live in a nice little pedestrian town. Like, for authenticity, like I'm true. Like, I tell you guys, like, build the business that you want to live in and enjoy, because like there's more important things in life. Like, in my backdrop, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, I've got my 3 kids, because that's my reminder to myself, and also my reminder to you guys. Like, I align with a certain type of person, and like, my goal is not to become the decamillionaire and to have, the cars and all that stuff. Like, mine is to build a business that I can tell my 3 kids, like, we could be proud of serving the right person the right way and doing good in the world and making time for the little people and the important things that are out there in the world. So I think that genuine angle, if you try to just copy and be bigger than life, like I see some people on Facebook ads, especially trying to be, don't fall for that trap. See through that, see what's real, see what's fake, and align with reality, align with real people. I think that's great advice, Tracy.
Yeah, and quick comment on that, John. I was going to point out the fact that you have the pictures of your kids in the background, and I think that that's super cool. And what it represents is that's what's important to you, right? And so if you had a Lamborghini in the back, then the fact that you're trying to show that you have a Lamborghini in the back, that's what's important to you.
Right.
And so that works for some people, but if that's not you, don't rent a Lamborghini and put it there just for a day.
Although I will be honest, I was biking my kids to school the other day, and in our town, there was a beautiful Lamborghini parked and like one of the coffee shops, little parking ballets or whatever. And for a brief moment, like I had the angel and the devil on me. I wanted to like stop out and take one of those selfie videos in front of the Lamborghini saying, buy my course. But and I realized that was just for fun.
Well, I'll tell you a quick one. This is super quick, so because I know we're pressed for time. But, I did take a selfie in front of a Lamborghini, but it was because I had moved to Park City, and I wasn't trying to say this is my Lamborghini, but I took my phone and I was like, made the weird face, and I was like, this is what you see in Park City. It was a Lamborghini with ski racks for the
Awesome.
ski parked right next to I think it was like a Porsche with ski racks, and it was like the things you see in Park City.
That
It
is
was
awesome.
hilarious.
It would have been a great Facebook ad, though. I'm
I
telling you.
wasn't trying to make people think that it was me,
Of
for sure.
course, of course. All right. So, hey, so Wishlist Member is clearly, it's stood the test of time. It's not done developing. So I wonder, even after 12 years of developing, maturing in the market, seeing what's out there, what can you kind of let the people who are watching this, close after its publishing date, what's on the radar? I know there's some really big features that you're getting kind of excited about. What can you tell us is coming even after 12 years of development, some of the most amazing features you have coming out in Wishlist Member?
Well, that's a really good question, and there is a lot of stuff that I'm super excited about. Um, Sometimes I like to be somewhat careful to not lay it out very specifically, because you do have people that they're like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to go add that to my
Sure,
product as well.
sure.
But I'll tell you, I think, in my opinion, there's a big shift coming with membership sites. And the shift has to do with all of the newer technology. You and I were talking about my past before, and where I used a shopping cart system, and we just outgrew it, because they didn't even have an API. And just in case you're wondering, API is something for back end, like the developer geeks, so that they can make one thing work with another one.
Right.
And so with the new version that we released, we released an integration with a company called Zapier. Okay. It's not Zapier, it's Zapier, because on their thing it says Zapier makes you happier.
And I've always called it Zapier. So
Well,
there you go.
they should have put two P's in it. I don't know. That's how you spell Zapier. So, anyways, squirrel. Zapier kind of rex kind of represents what I say is the new shift, and the new shift is taking taking control away from your membership site. Meaning, in the past, people were saying, well, I have to make it, I'm using this membership site or this membership system, and if it doesn't work with that membership system, then I can't use it, right? So now with Zapier, they're middleware, so we have ways of things that we do with our system, and you connect them with Zapier, and then Zapier connects you with another system.
Right.
Many of those things that are popular that you could do with Zapier, like for example, I'll tell you, this is one that we're about to release, is when somebody signs up for your membership, just boom, send something to your Slack channel so that
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm always on Slack. Boom, it's like, hey, I just got a new member. How do you think they would feel if right after they signed up, you contacted them directly and they recognized that it wasn't an automated follow-up, right? And so
Yeah.
there's
Super
things like,
powerful and personal.
yeah, yeah. And so I think that that's one of the things that we're most excited about. And there's also, I'll try not to give away too much, but I'll use the word automation. there's also some interesting things coming with automation that I think is I think it's gonna open the doors for the most flexibility you've ever seen, and so I'm really excited about that.
Wow. And for everybody who's watching this, I don't know what he's talking about. So
Yeah.
my curiosity is very piqued right now. So you didn't say what I thought you were going to say. So good job
Well,
on you.
yeah, there's another piece that I think I forgot to mention. So if you step back and you listen to all the things that we've said in this interview, you'll see there's kind of a bigger picture going on when I'm saying integrations, integrations, integrations. So here's a challenge for us. We get contacted all the time by these systems, and they're like, can you build an integration with us? And many times it's a system that doesn't it's not necessarily popular in the US. Let's say they're popular in Europe or Australia or something, and we do have customers there. But the thing is, they have a lot of their customers that are using our software and like, can you integrate with Wishlist Member? Can you? And nobody's really asked, like, they represent for us. We get a couple people. Can you do this? And so with what I said with Zapier, you can do all that stuff with Zapier, and then also Zapier has some competition. But the
Sure.
thing that's probably the most significant is we're just about to release our integration with WooCommerce. And the thing that's really gonna, yeah, I mean, I'm super pumped about this because of the way we did it. And the way we did it was, it's kind of our high level philosophy where we're not gonna hijack your payments, right? If you don't have to collect your payments through us, and then you're shackled in chains to always have to use us. No, if you start using WooCommerce and you collect your payments with WooCommerce, and then it talks directly with Wishlist Member, and then something happens and you want to leave and use some other system, that's okay. That's
Right.
okay, because we understand what it's like to have to do something that you didn't want to do, and it's never a good thing. But here's the big thing, John, and I didn't even realize this myself until just recently. um, Lots of things are changing worldwide because of security and
Mhm.
payments and everything. And in the European Union, the big thing was GDPR. And so we had to put a lot of our development plans on hold to get things working right with GDPR. And when you look at it from a big picture and you say, okay, uh, everybody's got to work together on this. Like, WordPress has part of GDPR built into it. How can we make ours work with theirs and not reinvent the wheel?
Right.
And so now when I say we're integrating with WooCommerce, it's like, well, wait a minute. That's just one integration, right? No. If you go to WooCommerce and you look at their payment integrations, I looked at it yesterday. There's a list of 65 different payment integrations.
I'd
So that
believe it.
means if you have, they're a powerhouse, right? They
Yeah.
they're running on like 20, 50 million sites. So they have the team to do anything and everything, and they also built it in a way where they don't have to build everything. So
Right.
they now put the power in this payment system. Like, here's our ecosphere of WooCommerce. If you're willing to build this and we let you tie directly in it, and it works with WooCommerce, it will work with Wishlist Member. And so that's like, I'm super excited about that because it's incredibly powerful. Couple that with the stuff that you didn't know about, it's going to be
Yeah.
pretty
And it
pretty
sounds like you
slick.
guys are working smart and hard, but you're
Yeah.
focused on not duplicating efforts and doing the best thing that you can to work with synergy with everything else that's already best in breed there. Because there are other options, and for those of you who are watching here, there's several options for your membership site solution. But also, what you tend to see, and I've seen this as well, where let's say you have a membership solution, I won't name any names, but that has its own payment gateway and has its own coupon system and has its own dashboard area, but maybe they're not all the best. And you end up having to integrate it with something else, maybe like a Thrivecart or some other payment solution or WooCommerce. Now you're in this world of, you've got system A, your membership system, and it's got its own payment process, its own coupons and all this stuff. And then you have your actual system you're using, but because that membership solution tried to be everything for you, you now have a bit of complexity in your system. Where do I set my price? Where do I set my coupons up? Where do I direct my customers to see the stuff they purchased? I like the direction that Wishlist Member has taken, where you just own it. You know who you are, and you know who others should be in that space, and you work together with them so they don't need to trip over themselves to figure out what settings lie where. Any comments on that little bit?
Yeah. I think you did a really good job of describing that, and I will follow up to say, because we did it this way, and company XYZ did it that way. It's not to say our way is right and theirs
Sure.
is wrong, or theirs is right and ours wrong. It's just some people do things certain ways and other people do them other ways. And the reason that we went that direction, it goes way back to when, and we didn't completely realize it at the time, but we were trying to go for flexibility.
Yes.
And it's taken all of this time to get to where we're at, to recognize that the power and the flexibility is because of the way technology has recently changed. It's going to get interesting.
It certainly will. I think you're geared up pretty well for the future, though, with with your Zapier integration with WooCommerce, trying to do what you guys do best. So let me ask you, Tracy, if there's somebody listening who uses a separate system, but they like what they're hearing, how difficult is it to go from membership system A into a Wishlist member? Any tips to help people in that migration process?
That's a really good question, John. And we get that a lot. And it's a little bit difficult for us to answer because we don't always have access to those systems. We never look at our competitors, their actual systems, to see what they're doing. We always just look at ours. But I will tell you, if you're, let's just use Kajabi, for example, because we talked about them before.
Sure.
Again, I love Kajabi. I haven't met those guys. Some of the few in the industry that they seemed really, really cool. And I know a lot of friends that love them. But with a system like Kajabi, you built out your platform there, and let's just say, man, something happens and you want to leave them. Well, you definitely have the ability to export your data. Okay. Sure. And so probably they'll let you export their name, email address, username, which is usually their email address anyways, and maybe their password. Okay. I don't know that, because a password is a big security thing. And tricky. So sometimes it's encrypted. Some systems just, they don't really take the security that it's not super high on the priority list. So if you were using a system like that, you could take the data and then you could rebuild over in Wishlist Member, and then we have a system for importing. Like, you could import all those. So that means anything and everything out there, you could always import. Now, if you're looking at a plugin, most of the plugins use the WordPress users database. So they're already in your WordPress system with the username and password. That password is encrypted, but we're not controlling it. WordPress is. So you could turn off one plugin, and then you could turn on the new plugin, in this case, Wishlist Member. They would all be there, and then you would select them and you say, I'm going to give them access to this membership level. And, there's always a challenge if it's a recurring payment and the other system was handling the payment. So every scenario is different, but that's kind of the high level. Those are the two primary ways that you can do it.
That's awesome. And I've gone through the process several times. Each platform is different, but in general, also I've reached out to Wishlist support, and they've been super helpful, to the point of even building some features or building some integrations that were needed for my specific project. So I think that, I tossed you a hard question there. So you did a great job of answering that one, Tracy. So yeah, we've been on for a while now, Tracy. This has been awesome. I hope you guys are super enjoying this interview and seeing really one of the, I'm going to call you the godfather or one of the OGs of the membership site game. You guys have done some amazing stuff. There will be links down below of this video, and if I turn this into a podcast, where you can get maybe a special deal on Wishlist Member, depending on when you're watching this and what promotions we have going on. Tracy, I just think that you've done an awesome job of first building the platform and also explaining it and kind of guiding it and being open with your evolution as a software developer, as a plugin, co-founder. And I think everybody listening in, Tracy's been very humble in talking through, we made a mistake here and we've done certain things and laying it all out there. And I appreciate that because he's being genuine, like we talked about earlier in the podcast. But what I take from that is that this is a platform that doesn't think it knows everything. It's growing, it's learning, it's evolving, and it's staying up on times with the integrated nature of software and WordPress in the future of building online businesses. So I think you've done a great job, Tracy. Are there any questions I should have asked in the conversation that I just hadn't thought to ask yet? Anything you would add on?
Man, I appreciate that, John. That means a lot to me. We don't know everything, and we don't know some of the new technology that's coming. And when it gets here, we'll probably follow the puck, right, and get on that way. I think you did a pretty good job. I can't think of any questions that you probably should have asked that you didn't. I mean, it's one of those things where I think you and I probably could go on talking for hours and stuff.
I think so. My alarm clock is telling me that I need to let my people go a little bit.
No, but I really do appreciate you having me, and I'm a big fan of the work that you've been doing online. So
Well, thank you.
kind of cool when you can come across somebody and see what they're doing and be like, you know what, that's the type of person that you. When I saw your stuff, I just felt like, man, that's the kind of guy that I think I could hang out with. Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, you actually lived in or grew up in the town that I'm currently living in. So if you ever do come on back and visit home, the first beer is definitely on me. So guys, anybody watching this video, this has been an awesome, about an hour or so I spent here with Tracy. If you want to learn more about Wishlist Member, you can click on the links down below, incomemesh.com/wishlistmember. That's my affiliate link. I would appreciate you guys use that, but also just go to Wishlist Member and search it on Google. These guys are everywhere. They've worked with amazing companies. They've got some great stuff coming that Tracy lets you guys in on. And I just want to say thank you, Tracy. And yeah, the whole Income Mesh community thanks you as well. So I hope you have a fantastic day and looking forward to all the great things you have coming up in your future.
All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.